Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Conway Video. So in this video I want to talk about the idea of tracking your work, and I guess the title being Beware of Untracked Work. So you can probably guess about this idea, but I've got a few thoughts on this and a few experiences I want to share. Maybe some of these things you can relate to in your job. There's work that is tracked, and then there's all that other work, right? And some of that other work that we do that isn't tracked, right? Some of that other work is work that we don't want to track, or at least we don't want to publicly track, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of different things that you could call work. One thing that might be work is trying to get that for loop just right, and then realizing after half an hour of struggling that, okay, I finally figured out it, and it was just like one little piece of code that was wrong, and I finally figured it out, and that's cool, but I wish I'd been able to see that earlier. I feel like a complete idiot, but hey, at least I got that thing done. So those sort of things are incidental. A lot of the time, they're not going to be repeated. They're just one-off, just annoying things. Okay, we probably don't want to track those. And there's other things too, like, thinking about what feedback you got from a colleague or a manager or something and trying to interpret it and kind of thinking, what do they really mean? And doing a bit of mind reading there. Okay, probably don't want to put that out there and track it and have everyone see it. Okay, got that. And then there's the stuff that we do track. Okay, so there's, you've been given a task, a high-level task by your manager, by your boss, and they're saying, I just want you to take this thing and run with it. And that's tracked, right? That's up there in the task tracker, Jira, or whatever you use, Google Docs, whatever tool you're using. And then you've got little subtasks under that. You've got this whole work breakdown structure, and you've got things organized into categories, and then you get going on your things, other people do their things, and at some point you all kind of come together and say, ta-da, it's done. And you've got this big thing, and hopefully it's something beautiful and not something ugly, but even if it's something ugly, at least it's something and it's out there. So these things are probably good to track. But yeah, I do come back to this idea of don't beware of untracked work. There are different categories that untracked work can fall into, but I guess the main thing is you don't want to be that sucker. I don't want to be that sucker who ends up spending hours and hours doing something that is really legitimately hard and that is important and doesn't get any credit for it, any shred of credit. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not like I need to have credit for everything, all right? There are some things that you're just not going to get credit for. Someone else will get credit, or no one will get credit, or everyone will get credit. That's cool. You can still get benefits from that. I'll probably do another video at some point about the benefits and how you can use the things that you did in previous jobs as a way to improve your skills and to improve how you market yourself in the job industry and so on. But in terms of just getting credit per se, I do think it's worthwhile with anything that you do in the workplace. Anything I do, I always try and look for an opportunity at least to get credit. And it doesn't have to be getting credit in front of the CEO. It could be just getting credit in front of some director or other, or just your boss and your team, and so building the trust within your team. There's all kinds of things that you can get credit for, but it's important that work be noticed, that instead of laboring away at something that no one ever sees, and then telling yourself inside, oh, this is important and I'm such a good person for doing this. No, you should be trying to get credit for those things. One of the lines I often fall back on, I forgot who said this, but someone I was reading or listening to said this, you've got to make money out of what you do. I think it might have been Peter Thiel. You have to monetize what you do. There's no point in doing this business and having this capability and having this getting profit there's no point in having capability and delivering things and value for your clients if you are not getting profit. If you're not making money off it, what's the point? You need to be making money. You need to be getting some value. And it's the same with credit. You need to be getting credit and getting noticed for what you're doing. If you're not getting noticed for what you're doing, if you're just kind of quietly doing all this work in the background and no one ever sees it, and I mean ever, like ever in the whole organization ever knows, then I feel like you're taking a bit of a gamble there. You're gambling on somebody out there knowing how important you actually are without you actually saying anything about it. And the problem is that we human beings aren't perfect and we're not omniscient. And your managers aren't omniscient and their managers aren't omniscient. And so they don't know necessarily how much you're doing. They don't know that you're doing all these extra things behind the scenes to make the project work. What they're seeing is like this. So if they're seeing this and you're doing this, already there's a huge difference in what they understand your role is and what your role actually is. And I tend to think maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned and there are more like fancy ways of doing this. I tend to think that I would like to be on the same page as my managers. I want their worldview and my worldview, at least about me, to be as close as possible together as possible. Because if they understand how much I'm delivering and I'm actually delivering that much, then chances are they are going to trust me. They're going to give me good projects to do. They're going to help me when things get tough. They're just generally going to be on my side and helping me to the extent that they can. And obviously they have a lot of other things to do, but I tend to generally think that, yeah, you want to err on the side of, I've said in other videos, you want to err on the side of action rather than inaction. You want to err on the side of effort rather than not effort. I'll say in this video, you want to err on the side of getting credit and being noticed rather than the side of not being noticed. You can try and be fancy and tricky and clever about it and be noticed for this and not noticed for that. And I suppose there's some value in that. I don't want to be noticed as somebody who does some sort of repetitive, low-value work that doesn't really matter a whole lot, like, I don't know, bringing the team coffee, right? I don't want to be the coffee guy. But I do want to be noticed for delivering that work that is legitimately valuable, that increases the profit, that is within my skill set, that is within the sort of work I want to be doing as a career. All that stuff I do want to be noticed for. And so when push comes to shove, I'm generally going to err on the side of being noticed and being out there rather than trying to hide away and not be seen and not be noticed. Now, I guess people do hide for different reasons, right? There are times when people probably don't want to be a go-to person. They've already got enough work on their plate and they don't want to have even more work put on their plate. That's fair enough. There are also times where there might be all kinds of other things that I'm not aware of, that other people aren't aware of. But I guess as a general guideline for myself, my policy is generally I would rather be known than not known. I'd rather be seen than not seen. When it comes down to a decision in some boardroom somewhere about whether I should be kept on the books or not, I would probably prefer to be kept on the books. At least I'd prefer that other people want to keep me. Whether I want to stay is of course up to me to decide, but I would prefer other people to want to hire me. So I would prefer to be therefore noticed. At least if I come up in their mind, at least I'm on the radar. I might not be like the perfect A player. I might not be 100% who they want, but at least I'm up there on their minds. My name is getting, thrown around in those meetings, and they're thinking, yeah, do we keep John? Do we not keep John? Well, he's on the radar, so we might as well talk about it. So there you go. At least people are talking about me, and then I build it up from there. People start to think this guy's valuable. This guy's got some capabilities we want, and the same with gals. And so that's what I generally would say to go for, is like, try to be noticed rather than not noticed. Try to have something out there rather than not have something out there. And try to get some credit for things. There are fallbacks, of course. If you're doing a lot of work that is important and you're not, and you just can't get noticed, maybe the organization just isn't set up in that way that you can get noticed. There are still a lot of things you can do with that knowledge. One thing is you can market yourself to competitors and to other companies who are also interested in what you can do. You can also use those learnings to kind of find out, what sort of skills to build going forward. So, you might realize that you have a deficit in some skill, and that's why you're not being noticed. So you need to then improve that skill, and then you will start to get noticed. And you might also find that there's a bit of an art and a bit of an art to actually getting on people's radar in the first place. There's a bit of an art sometimes to writing a message that interests the right sort of people, understanding your audience, understanding what they're looking for. Even it can be as simple as just observing the emails that are flowing into your inbox or the messages that are coming up on your chat room and just noticing the keywords and saying, oh, I see that keyword coming up a lot, I see that keyword. If I string together a message that contains those 3 keywords, I probably have a better chance of being seen and observed and paid attention to than if I don't. So then you can start to craft a message that is going to use the right keywords to get people sort of watching you, and so that can be a way. So you can get better and better at getting noticed and getting credit. But I do tend to say, as a general policy, again, when in doubt, I would rather get credit than not. I'd rather be noticed than not. I would rather be on people's radar than not on their radar if that's the choice. Thanks for watching.